Always slightly freaks me out, that voice. There we go. Right, is everyone seeing my screen okay?
Yeah.
Slides. All right, so hopefully people will just keep coming in. I can't actually, when I'm sharing screen, you can't actually see people very well, but hopefully that'll be fine. Right, so thanks a lot for everyone coming. Really happy to see so many people for the first ever No Code Northeast. We're going to have it's true meetup style. It's not, I hope, not too formal. And the agenda was sent around beforehand, but just to reiterate, we're going to have a look at welcome and introductions. Just to introduce you to the day, have a little evening, should I say, have a little run through why we're bothering with this, why we're all here. Talk through some of the current plans that we've got for No Code Northeast going forward. And then we've got a talk from Max when he arrives, because I didn't send him. He's here. There you go. Hi, Max. Sorry for that, not sending sending that through. And then, yeah, we'll do a Q&A with Max, so you can find out more and ask any questions you might have. And then we'll move to some breakout rooms where primarily we want to just spend a bit of time understanding what you all want to get out of No Code Northeast and how we can make sure it kind of works as something for you and the rest of the community. So moving on, in terms of welcome introductions, well, I've just done a welcome. My name's Adam. I'm continuous improvement lead at Sunderland Software City. Previously ran a software development company for many years before that, hence my interest in this. And I discovered No Code fairly recently, and kind of primarily in terms of the way that I know it now through Max, to be fair. Little does he probably know it, but following Max and looking at the breadth of what was out there, I'd played around with quite a lot of different tools before that, but hadn't kind of realized, you know, what this thing called No Code was. And I think I'm still just working out what that is at the moment, in low code as well. So what I wanted to do is just put up a quick poll rather than going through one by one. When we do breakouts later on, you can maybe do intros to yourself individually, but obviously with 20 plus people in here, I don't think that's a particularly good use of time. But it would be great to just get a feel for how people are using No Code. So I've got another poll to pop up. And if everyone could pop in there, which one best reflects who they are, how they use No Code or not, as the case may be. If you really don't find one that suits you, apologies. I've tried to cover everyone. Give everyone a few seconds to fill that out. Oh, great. It's a good spread of different uses. All right, we're just one short, which is probably, oh no, there we go. All right, there we go. So obviously people are using it at work, people are using it, not using it at all, personal and work projects. So yeah, good spread. Great. Okay, so that gives us a bit of a feel of who's in the room. I think one of the things when we're putting this together is looking at the audiences and understanding, you know, what's best for the different audiences we might have, because you know, not everything's going to work for everyone. We'll come on to that in a bit. So what's the vision for No Code Northeast? So primarily what we're looking to do is create a vibrant no code and low code community in the Northeast as an active part of the wider digital ecosystem. I'm very happy to be able to spend time on this through my work with Sunderland Software City. And it's something I'm passionate about and something that I'm really keen that, having touched on, and I really have touched on, again, there's other people in the room probably much more engaged in the no code and low code communities. One of the things that's really struck me about these technologies is that they are very community led and have very strong community base. Coming from the open source world in the past, that's something that excites me a lot, and so I'm keen that we have something in the Northeast that we can you know, call on our our peers and chat things over, but at the same time really see what we can do together in terms of developing no code and low code in the region. So that's the vision. It came from, you'll see a Lego theme, primarily just using the good old-fashioned Lego analogy that people have for the building bricks that no code and low code create. But obviously, again, from the Software City perspective, we've become increasingly aware of how no code, low code are changing the software landscape. We hope a positive addition to particularly in the Northeast, to what is already a sort of thriving community of software developers, but also it's made software development so accessible. And I'm sure again that Max will talk more about this in a little while, but being able to have an idea and people be able to create software without actually having any kind of coding skills whatsoever is super exciting. And by bringing a community together, hopefully it means that we can do more together and really kind of get to know each other and do some cool stuff. For those that have never used it or have no idea, apologies for those in the room if I'm telling you stuff you already fully know here, but primarily, and from my side, I'm still feeling like the full definition of no code and low code have probably got some way to go as more and more things come out. But primarily, I see it as no code allowing people to create software, but from a graphical user interface and not having to know any code, as the name suggests, or know little code in order to build your own software. And this has developed a lot over time. I mean, I think it's safe to say you could call some of the tools that I've used for 20 years or so no code tools, in the fact that they've allowed me to build things without knowing any code for a couple of decades. However, the breadth of these tools and the accessibility to them and how easy they are to do what can be quite complex and amazing things is changing every day at the moment, and in really exciting ways. Obviously for low code, that's where you've got the addition of scripts and where you can add programming in to further enhance or develop software as you go. This is very much kind of my own huge generalization, so I appreciate the dates don't exactly stack up in every way and what have you, but for me it feels like there's been a bit of a work to this point around software, where back in the 90s, any of us that were doing it were writing everything pretty much in hand coded, whether it be HTML or programming languages. We then saw in the 2000s the content management systems becoming the norm, moving into the 2010s when software as a service became a big thing and frameworks were developed and APIs and different ways of kind of not having to develop the same thing over and over again, but also much more complex than the sort of traditional content management or content frameworks. And then more recently, no code, low code, and automation, which have come very much to the fore, clearly before 2020, but very much becoming sort of mainstream and things that many people are starting to use by the day. So as I said before, I think it's important that we look at audience, and I'm really happy, as I say, that we've got a mix of people here today. I think it'll be great to understand how that can work. But I've just put down some examples of who we could imagine come into No Code Northeast and who the community could be for. As I said before, I don't think we can do everything for everyone, but that's a big part of what today is all about, is really trying to understand what people want, how this could work for you and how it could help you. And hopefully make a difference to the region and the region software community at the same time. So I've got in there entrepreneurs. I think this is a space which is very active in terms of people being able to build the app that they want to be able to sell or support the selling of their whatever it is that they do as a business. Businesses who are looking to handle technology in-house. I think again it's another space of rapid growth where in-house teams are starting to use no code to develop faster or in a different way. And also that some places that I think are starting to have in-house teams that they wouldn't have done before, because they can now with no code without having to have, people from multiple different disciplines in order to do quite build quite advanced software. Digital agencies and their teams interested in using no code and low code. Again, we've got a really great community of digital agencies across the Northeast, and it's important again that we understand how it fits into the wider tech ecosystem. But a lot of agencies are now starting to explore no code, low code if they're not actually using it pretty much as their main delivery mechanism. Software companies developing new no code, low code products. I know of at least 2, possibly 3 no code and low code companies who actually have products that are out in the market, and I'm really keen for them to have a platform here and understand how their systems work, as I'll come on to later on. Academics and teachers. Sorry to keep referring to you, Max, but Max is, I think you've just been launching, haven't you, a program for schools. I think again it's a really exciting for me and interesting opportunity for how no code could be used in academia and in schools to help either make the first step towards programming in an easy and accessible way, or potentially just to be providing an understanding of what no code and low code can do, and how they're being used. Hobbyists, lots of people using these tools, for their own purposes, their own benefit, or for projects from voluntary work side of things, or similar. And that's certainly how I've tried to ply my trade with it a bit. And then anyone else who's interested, who doesn't really know what no code, low code is, or how it could benefit them, and want to just come in and hear from the community and understand what we're up to. We sent out a survey a while ago, and actually we had, I think we've got about the same number of people in today as filled out that survey. So, and we had double the amount of people register. So already we're seeing the word spread, and we're seeing growth in terms of getting this kind of information. But when we sent out that survey, these were the priorities that came up in terms of what people would be looking for. Again, we don't want to kind of just pick the top 2, because that wouldn't serve the needs of everyone. But there's clearly there was a clear winner, as it were, in terms of real life examples of projects. On that basis, I'd really like us to be tapping into not just our networks and the real life projects that we have our own examples of, which I think would be great to do a session on, but also look at it on a national or even international level of some of the really, really successful projects that are out there, whether it be entrepreneurial or social projects. Lightning talks with tips and tricks. Obviously, we have to think about the best way to do that, and it could be that we just have people do lightning talks on specific bits of software they're using, because obviously there is a huge amount of different software out there, so we need to work out how to make the most of that. But it was the second thing that came up. Deep dive in software sessions. I'm having conversations with a number of different no-code suppliers about looking at them providing a bit of a deep dive into their specific software, some of the more obvious ones, and hopefully some of the maybe the newer people to the market, that kind of thing. Networking with other no-code, low-code developers. I think this one's possible, but a little bit more difficult online. Just to mention, because I don't have it on a slide anywhere, but I would really hope that these meetups do move to in-person meetups in the not too distant future. As Software City goes, we are still primarily working from home, but yeah, as things start to open up and people feel more comfortable, then we would look to start doing something in person. And hopefully the networking aspect of that will be invaluable. And also visibility for community members and their work, providing visibility for things that you are all doing, whether it be in work or in personal projects. We've got a few examples of future sessions that we've decided will sort of definitely happen at some point. Some of these are further on than others. No code and low code for founders. So looking at founders and entrepreneurs that have used no code and low code to get a product or service out to market. No code lightning talks, specifically based on the feedback there about how we could have short talks from people about the different tools that they're using, or tips and tricks on one particular tool. Looking at the no code apps in the Northeast, as I mentioned before, I think hopefully we've got some representatives tonight, but we've got no code companies who have built no code platforms in the Northeast, and it would be really good to give them a platform and hopefully support them in the ecosystem. And in no code for nonprofits, there's some really great work going on in terms of how no codes and low codes being used in the nonprofit space. So we've got a few people from the region that we're keen to give a platform there as well. We're going to come on to other ideas later on, and we'll be really hoping to get your input on that as we do breakout rooms later on in the evening. But these are just a few ideas to give some examples of where we were already thinking to do things. These are very much ideas at the moment that we're surfacing, and again, would be really great to understand which things are most interesting for you, and also where you could contribute or get involved, or if you have ideas. But also, if you've got any other sorts of ideas in the questions that we'll look at later on, we're really keen to hear any ideas or going into these in more depth as your mind is whirring. So we've got code of conduct development. I've sort of put that at the top there because I think it's a really important thing we need to do as a community, and we'll be working on that. I've got a reasonable amount of experience in communities, and we'll try and bring some of that to drafting a code of conduct. But again, we'll be really interested in getting people's input and views into that. Showcasing of no and low code projects, as we've kind of talked about, but potentially having some specific events outside of the meetup space for that, where we can try and kind of get the interest of a wider audience. Ask the expert sessions, that could be people from a particular app or people who have developed particular projects that we might want to ask the expert, or ask me anything type sessions. An annual no code conference. This has been discussed with a few people at the moment in terms of how we do that on a regional basis, but there's a lot of interest in that idea. Building in public collaboration days, for anyone who isn't aware, building public, probably not the most qualified to talk about this, but building public is a concept that is very much used in no code of showing people what you're doing as you're doing it, so that everyone can be learning, and it fits very much with that community aspect. But I thought it'd be quite nice to be able to get a bunch of us all together to actually build in public with each other in person, much like a hack day, but a sort of no code equivalent of building in public. No code in education, kind of mentioned that earlier on, but pulling people together from the education space and looking at how we can look at no code and low code in the education space. We're keen to put together, if we can, a suppliers database. We have to be a little bit careful on that in terms of my time on this particularly is funded through ERDF. So we just need to make sure that we do it in a kind of fair and equal way. But we are keen to, as I talked about before, give suppliers a platform. Potential roundtable discussions and also one-to-one support, which could be peer support or other. But again, all just kind of ideas to just hopefully get the mind whirring a little bit in terms of what kind of things we could be doing. I'm really keen to get creative ideas from others as we progress with the evening. So that is my introduction. Are you ready, Max? Are you all right to?
I think so. Yeah, I'll try and. Shall I try and share my screen? It's the first battle.
I'll just stop sharing mine and hopefully.
Right. Cool.
So I'm gonna let so just first of all, thanks very much, Max, for joining us, and I'll let you introduce yourself. But Max runs 100 Days of No Code and has a fantastic no code story that I'm sure he will give you a bit of insight into. But yeah, if you want to take over. Oh,
oops.
Go take over from there. All
sure.
good.
Can you see that at all?
That's
perfect. Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much, Adam, for for having me here today. It's really cool to see the kind of no code ecosystem growing and spreading its wings across the country. It's about time, because I'm very big, obviously, believer in no code, and I really want to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. So it's nice to see it outside of Twitter and beyond, where I spend most of my time. So as Adam will know, I think today I'm just going to give a really whistle-stop tour on what no code is. Now, really do forgive me if this is super basic for a lot of you, but hopefully it's mildly interesting, and you can kind of gain some sort of tidbits from it. But hopefully the more interesting thing, with some time at the end, is we're open up for some questions. So then I can probably really dig into your specific questions and what may be most interesting to you. But first, we're just going to start with what is no code and go from there. So I'll take it from here. So what is actually no code? It could really mean a lot of things. So for example, you can build in your notebook. You can write in your notebook without code. You can play tennis without code. You can do a lot of things without code. This is why I really love this tweet by Lacey Kessler, who rightly calls out the distinction between saying I make things without code versus saying I make something without writing any code. Now, the key word there being writing. So what we really mean by no code is a set of tools that give us the power of code without actually having to write it. So instead, we can create websites, apps, chatbots, databases, and more visually, which is giving rise to this new way of building products. And I just realized now this presentation is more external facing. So it is more for the kind of the founder, entrepreneur, creator profile of someone using no code. But hopefully it's still interesting to you, even if you're not going to be building products, but also just internal use cases too. So what you're seeing here is the Bubble editor, and essentially you're dragging and dropping elements, pre-built components onto a screen. And that is a lot of what no coding is about. So as Adam has already covered, it is a tried and tested kind of analogy for no code. And that is the fact that it's very much like digital Lego. Now, maybe this is a bit of a simplification, but hopefully it gives you or kind of resonates with you and clicks as a way to kind of start to understand what it all means. So essentially, you can build things visually now with these tools, just as you would build something out of your imagination with Lego. And just like Lego, you're kind of pulling in these kind of pre-built components and then configuring them together, as you can see in this tool here called Funkable, which is a no-code mobile app builder. And these pre-built components, kind of what are they? They're essentially blocks that could be text buttons, maps, login flows, and more to kind of configure the look and feel of your app, but also the back end and the logic behind how it all functions. And this kind of analogy works on a micro and a macro level. That sounds all very fancy, but essentially what I'm saying is you can connect pre-built components together within a no-code tool, but you can also connect different no-code tools together. So that's kind of the macro side of that. And that's where a lot of the power of no-code comes into play, is when you're starting to connect different tools, different Lego blocks together. And just to kind of continue the theme of analogies, we can also compare it to IKEA. So whenever we buy something from IKEA, whether that's a desk or a wardrobe or a bathroom fitting, we still have to assemble the pieces of that thing together. And that is just like entering a no-code tool, and you see this list of pre-built components that you can choose from to build the thing that you want to build. And although you're not going to find as much power or customizability as you would have if you were building something from scratch with code, just like IKEA, you're not going to find a more accessible, cost-effective and faster way than building them with no code. And it's about time that we're actually able to do this, because which was kind of a revelation to me, but only 26 million people worldwide can write code. That is 0.3% of the world's population, which is like saying that only 1 in 400 people can write, which is pretty crazy. So no code is essentially empowering the 99.7%. Now, of course, the 99.7% of us aren't all going to take up no code, but hopefully a fair chunk of us will. And slowly, more people will be creating kind of the digital spaces that we're kind of using every day. So just like Shopify kind of enabled the dropshipping economy, and YouTube and TikTok enabled the creator economy, what we're saying now is no code enabling this builder economy, as we're empowered now to create our own things. And again, through the lens of the founder, entrepreneur arc, as builders, we can now kind of execute and validate on our ideas on our own terms without dependency, or without as much dependency as we had beforehand. And this makes building faster, leading to a quicker time to market for our MVPs, which allows us to spend more and more time kind of generating insights from users, iterating as a result, and then validating our kind of riskiest assumptions. Time that would otherwise be spent building if we were doing it the traditional way. So you're probably wondering at this point, it all sounds well and good, but what can you actually build with these tools? Now, I guess a lot of people, when I first talk about no code, they think of Wix and Squarespace, and technically these are no code tools, but they're limited in their flexibility and the functionality that you can bring into them. So that is where no code has kind of made that step up. As Adam was talking about earlier, there was kind of a content era where you could kind of make informational sites on WordPress, etc. And now we're kind of able to build applications. So there's been a leap in the functionality that we can create without writing any code. And we're kind of at the point now where there's a no-code tool for that is kind of there's a no-code app for that. Of course, in the 2010s or whatever, we were always saying that, we still are, and now kind of no-code is taking on a similar mantle. And that's why you can create landing pages, newsletters, software, businesses, internal tools, automations, kind of you name it. And just to give you a little bit more of a clearer sense of what you can build, there are many examples of no code being used to create Facebook, Airbnb, Uber, Netflix kind of replicas in terms of the functionality that those products have. So that just gives you a taste for, well, if you can build those kind of things, then you can really build many, if not all, of the kind of existing software that's out there today. So that is essentially, yeah, what you can build with no code. And then I guess the last thing I just want to touch on is the real world case studies. So you've heard kind of what no code is. You've understood what you can make with it, and then it's probably worth sort of giving you some real world case studies to to actually show you that this is possible and that you can have some really good impact with no code. So this is one that was created, someone in the 100 Days of No Code community. It was a directory, very simple product. It took him an hour to build, and he launched on Twitter, went viral very quickly, and got 20K petitions signed, kind of in the effort to get the government to look into the disproportionate amount of missing Black people in the UK. So it just gives you a feel for the time between idea to impact with no code. This is not very similar, called Bad Unicorn, and they are a product studio that uses no code tools to build a bad business idea every 2 weeks. They're a very interesting, quirky studio, and it just shows you how fast you can move and build with no code, but also make money of it just for fun, interesting applications. And they have been featured in some nice big publications as a result. And this kind of puts it through the lens of a for-profit startup, Otter. So they are a marketplace that matches parents who need childcare with stay-at-home parents. They use no-code tools to build their initial marketplace, gain validation, and then since raised a chunk of money from some pretty reputable venture funds. And then the last example I'll share is Coins, which is a mobile app that's processed over $20 million in transactions over the last few years. And that is all based off the back end of Bubble. So again, giving you a sense of not only are these tools, good for quick, hacky, lean MVPs, but can also scale to quite the size. So that's it from me on my side. Hopefully that wasn't too high level, but yeah, let me know if you guys have got any questions, and I'll pass back over to you, Adam.
Yeah, can I start with a a question slightly diverting away from the presentation? Can you tell us a bit, because I said to everyone you would, a bit about 100 Days of No Code and your story, because I think it's fascinating and really exciting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, classic Brit, just completely not talking about themselves. But yeah, so I kind of followed the very traditional story arc of a no-coder. I tried to start. I think Justin is in the audience, and he was kind of witness to it. Was part of an early stage startup in the Northeast a few years back, and we tried to build a Airbnb for storage marketplace. And one of the reasons we failed was we couldn't really, well, one, we couldn't build the product ourselves, and we used a lot of our money on developers, but really the main point was we couldn't move fast enough in response to user feedback, and yeah, we failed, and that always planted a seed in my head to kind of become a little bit more technical. Went down the road of learning to code, realized I couldn't stand it, I couldn't deal with it, and didn't have the chops for it, and then thankfully stumbled across no code. And in learning to no code, I used I started 100 Days of No Code, and in learning and in that process, I kind of stumbled into creating a community. So it kind of organically came about, yeah, over the last couple of years. So and now it's not just a challenge, it's a community, and now we're kind of doing some boot camp. So slowly but surely trying to push this kind of no code ecosystem a little bit bigger.
Thanks, Max, that's great.
No worries.
Does anyone have a question for Max? I'm just checking the chat there.
Do you want me to stop sharing? Do you want me to stop sharing screen?
Yeah, great. That'd be great. Someone's asking first of all if we can get the slides, Max. Is that feasible?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'll yeah, I can send them to you, Adam.
Perfect. Thanks. Any other questions for Max? Al, go for it.
I'll ask a quick one, please. So where do you see no code headed in the next 12 months or so?
Yeah, good question. I think, yeah, really good question. I think it comes down to there's going to be more tools in the space. So there is already a ton of no-code tools, but there are going to be more specialist ones. So focusing on real specific use cases. And then the existing tools are going to become more powerful and mature in terms of how they can scale with the amount of users they have on the platform, and just seeing more investment in the space. There's probably 10 or 12 no-code tools that have been backed or like at Series B now, and yeah, there's a lot of money sloshing around the space. So I think it's only going to grow from here on out. Yeah.
Thanks, Max. Nathan, do you want to?
Yeah, so in this conversation, we kind of, in the same breath, talk about no code and low code. I wondered if you thought, will there ever reach a point where no code kind of just usurps low code in the market? Or do you think, will there always be a space for low code? I'm thinking of examples like Monday.com or Jotform, where if you need to customize it, the opportunity is there, but it's not always required. Or do you see no code, as I said before, usurping that in the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't really thought about that, to be honest. Probably don't have a great answer. I mean, they're kind of, yeah, I think as Ian says, they're very different things. And as kind of Adam alluded to at the start of the presentation, you're using code in low code, and you are kind of injecting scripts into what you're building. So it's just a different level of flexibility and functionality that maybe you wouldn't be able to get in no code. So they're very different things. As to whether one will usurp the other, I really don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think that the big difference for me is that low code provides the speed of no code, but allows coders and programmers to actually utilize it in ways that make it much more customized and get around some of the issues you could get with no code. But yeah, I think it'll be one that we explore a lot, Nathan, through hopefully through the community. And just to also mention that we did, just to explain kind of why we call it No Code Northeast, and that we're covering no code and low code, is primarily through that initial survey that I mentioned at the start. And primarily most people, by quite a big margin, said that they would prefer an event around both areas. And to be fair, probably took a bit of a decision. I think there was another question which talked about no code being the one that maybe was more well known. But anyway, the idea is that we would cover both within one event. If that becomes, something that's, given that they are, as Ian says, two different things, we may find that we're just trying to cover too much ground. But well, let's see how we go. Justin.
Yeah, I guess the last few years I've primarily worked with early stage founders, and oftentimes what we speak to is wireframing. So I think James Miller's on the call here. He's recommended tools like InVision and Figma, and there are other tools like Balsamiq, etc., Adobe XD. Wondering what Max's thoughts are, how sort of wireframing, if there's a connection between the sort of wireframing tools and no code, whether you can go from the wireframing to the no code, through some kind of existing integration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really good question. And yes, so a lot of the design tools are now actually letting you plug in to your designs into no-code tools. So for example, you have Bubble, which has a Figma integration. So instead of spending a ton of time in Bubble designing, you can pull in your Figma wireframes and it will kind of mock up what you've designed in Bubble. So admittedly, that integration isn't super slick right now, but it's getting there. Another example is Bravo Studio, and they let you build mobile apps off the back of your Figma files. So again, it takes care of the design for you, and then you will be able to attach that Bravo app to any backend of your choice, whether that's Airtable or Xano or any of these other kind of more powerful backend tools. So yeah, in short, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Great question. William.
Hi, I'm interested in this, but also I guess I have a bit of skepticism. So my background sort of working with open source software and things like WordPress, which I think that is a node code tool, has been around for a long time. So I guess my question is about what's the sort of long-term longevity of this. I can see they're great for prototyping things quickly, but if you're building a complex system that wires together the various different apps from various different companies, what happens if one of them goes bust or no longer provides the service you want or puts their price up significantly?
Yeah, really good question. And yeah, I may not be the best person to answer this, but I think a couple of things I'd say is yeah, there is definitely dependency. So you know, you're beholden to the roadmap and the feature set and the pricing of a no-code tool that you choose. And in some cases, you're kind of locked in the sense that you can't export the code of your solution. Some tools though allow you to. So for example, a mobile app builder called DraftBit allows you to export the code. So once you're done with that tool, or you want to move into a fully custom coded solution, you can still yank out that code and then kind of as the bedrock for your own solution. But a lot of the no-code tools don't allow you to do that. I guess you're right. You know, the more complex it gets, the more sort of exposed you are in terms of connecting the tools. But I guess that's probably similar. I've not used WordPress, but it's probably similar in WordPress if you're plugging in lots of different plugins together as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, what I would say is, bottom line is the tools are becoming more robust. And the landscape's really only been around for 2.5, 3 years properly. So yeah, they are getting more robust and better at dealing with complexity. And there's, I guess, as well, there's all-in-one tools that will generally do it all versus more kind of cobbled together combination of tools. So again, that's another consideration if you want to build more complex things.
Could I pass a comment on that as well, please? I'll declare a vested interest because I own a company that builds a no-code platform and has done for 20 years. And we deal with particularly enterprise scale business systems, just to be clear, not sort of community systems. So been around a very long time. And I don't just mean us as a technology, but other platforms too. And complexity, you know, a lot of platforms can handle very complex scenarios. We do work for all sorts of, you know, grown-up businesses like air traffic control and nuclear sites and things like that. And I wouldn't say it's a panacea. The the open source community can work really well, but you can still be at the mercy of resources. If resources leave or move on or retire, that's still a problem. Yes, no-code platforms, you're at the mercy of that supplier. So the strategy that they take and the technologies they deploy in, etc. But I do think no-code gives all of those benefits of faster time to market, easy to understand, and that sort of thing. And to some degree gets you out of the technology debt problem that conventional methods bring about. And no code and low code, that's one of the major differences. As soon as you start saying, well, we can inject scripts and put bespoke work around it, etc., you've built this fragile infrastructure that as soon as something somewhere upgrades, that stuff starts to fall apart. So it's something where you take very high level strategic decisions to go down a particular route and then stick with that strategy, because as soon as you deviate, you go back into the world of, well, we start to create problems. I don't know whether that was helpful or not. But listening to all of that and having done that for a long time, I couldn't resist, I'm afraid.
Really good contribution, Ian. Thanks a lot. It's great. James and Deborah, sorry, I know, Debbie, I know you've asked questions in the chat. So James, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi guys. Hi Max. So I'm a tech founder. Obviously, been in a tech company. I think following on from what Justin said, we're outsourcing. So we've used Figma to build some kind of wireframes and prototypes. And I guess something like no code is the next stage in that kind of process where you want to get some traction, but obviously you can't afford to outsource to build a fully functional MVP. So I guess my questions are really, what are the kind of limitations with no code? I've got concerns around who owns the IP, and if you get to a point where you start to get traction, people using it, where do the costs come in? Because they look quite costly to kind of subscribe to these things, and who owns the IP, and can you export? What's the kind of tie into it?
I can tell you what we've done on that front. We've got people who've developed solutions using our platform and then own the IP. So they can never own the IP of our platform because that's our intellectual property. But if they configure solutions for particular marketplaces, maybe they've got a vertical niche or something like that, that configuration is clearly their intellectual property. They could sell that to anybody they want at whatever commercial value it has, and it may well be underpinned by some of our technology that could be either just a separate commercial transaction, or they could do that bundled together, become a partner of ours, or we could start some joint venture or joint sort of partner operation. And we've done all of those variations at various points in time.
Yeah. I'm glad you answered that one, Ian, because yeah, my knowledge of IP no-code tools leaves a lot to be desired. But I would say absolutely you should get in. You should build this thing in no-code. Absolutely. I know I'm biased, but although maybe the software or the tools that you're looking at may be expensive, I bet they're probably less, or they're cheaper than hiring a developer at the end of the day. That's just a gut feeling, and it depends on what tool you're using. But yeah, I would always say get it going, get that product there.
I would agree.
And with no-code tools, yeah.
Yeah, I guess what we're saying is no code is about validating and proving the need, rather than spending 20, 30, 40,000 pounds on MVP you bring to market that actually people actually haven't validated.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say, Max, from what you said of your story, I mean, you're sort of living proof of why that can be. And it's not always the case, but it can be a difficult thing, I think. But I think it's also fair to say, again, Max, you probably have better, or Ian, better experience. But I think there's plenty of large companies that have been invested in and bought up and what have you that are built on no code. It's not. Yeah. It's not the case that that because it's built on proprietary system or whatever it might be, that suddenly you're uninvestable. And I think the reality is that, probably sort of fitting with what Ian was saying, is that the IP comes from what people are doing, or what processes you've got, or what, not from and that's always been the case. Even where we used open source, and there was always a question of IP, but there's no question, because it's not it's not the code where the IP exists, it's what it does. But that's my understanding, probably.
I think if you are a business that is seeking to build a software solution to a given problem to take to market, you should investigate the IP aspects. If you're a business that just wants to use no-code technologies to help run your own business, I wouldn't even think about IP. It makes no difference where the IP lies. But if you're trying to take a deliverable software solution to market, yes, then investigate the IP side of things. And any decent no-code platform, you should own the IP in what you've built in the platform, but recognize that you're underpinned by a significant amount of time, effort, and resource investment in the underpinning technology. So together they make the solution to the end customer.
Great, thanks, Ian. Debbie, sorry, thanks for waiting.
Hi everybody, Debbie Simpson from Northeast BIC Innovation Programme. Just curious, do you have to be a coder to learn how to do no code, or can anyone, I'm not going to say pick it up, but can anyone learn what to do?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I came from the real lower rung of the technical spectrum, even though I'm a bit younger than kind of most in the no-code scene. I still, I was never that good at Excel. I just never had built anything before. I was really at the low end of that technical spectrum. And I've essentially, so that the threshold really is, can you maneuver yourself around Microsoft Word, Google Sheets. And if you're able to do that, then you should be able to at least grasp the more intuitive tools on the market. Yeah.
I mean, can I just add on to the back end of that? It's something that I've talked about with Adam and Mark Rennie. We've got people come to us, customers, clients who have got innovative ideas, and they are talking about using no code or low code solutions. And we're thinking about the innovative element. Is it still innovative because they are using a simple, they're finding a simple solution? I think it is, but there's this big argument. Can we fund a project that's got a low code solution? And Ian, you've just talked about that, about if you're having a product that you want to take to market, is a low code, no code the best solution?
Well, we have partner companies who white label our product and call it their own technology. We get some financial spin-off off the back of that, but we've got a customer who they do exactly that. They had a small development team of 4 developers. They worked on a project for 3 years, 12 man-years effort. What they built when they finally got it to market, because they did sell it to customers, and their projects got bogged down, and they realized that what they built wasn't fit for purpose. They'd made some fundamental flaws. They gave us a contract to build that for them and 40 days to do it in. And it was actually 40 days of elapsed time as well, not just 40 days work. And they've since decided that their strategy is our underpinning technology all the way. So they've spent quite a lot of money with us. Their customers don't even know who we are. As far as they're concerned, they're selling their products.
It's really, really interesting from an innovation point of view. I might need to come back and talk to you at a later point, Ian, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, really interesting. Thanks.
I'm really pleased, I've got to say, because for probably at least the last 15 years, I've banged the drum of no code. And most people, when I've been in networking and meetings and various things, and I've seen Justin over the years as well, they sort of look at you and go, no code, what do you mean? You know, you're a bit lost, don't get that concept, etc. And now there is a hype in the industry. I can go along with that quite nicely, and a lot of that work's done for us.
Thanks, Ian. And yeah, I mean, I think the innovation question is possibly a bit like the IP one as well, right? In the fact that the innovation is what you're doing, not in what it's built on.
Absolutely.
And that's where I would put the value, as it were. So I think, yeah, if you're managing processes in a new and innovative way with no code technology, it still seems like innovation to me. Yeah. All right, here's a good one for you, Max. Typical Mark. I know how it's. I know this is a how long is a piece of string question. Sorry, Mark. Do you want to deliver this? Nope. So he's basically asking, how much is it to build an app?
Is that in time, in money, in
money?
Money. Yeah, I mean, well, one, it will depend on. Wait, in terms of. Is this no code? How much it's to build in no code? Well, I mean, yeah, the main expenditure is time, because you'll have to, invest in learning that specific tool. But then, for that specific tool, it really comes down to what feature set you have for that project, for that product. And then also how many users you have, because you'll normally get charged based on the amount of users and accounts that are created on your product by that no-code tool. But then again, you may be asking from how much is it to pay an agency to build your no-code app? And to be honest, that is, again, depending in the vicinity of 3 to 10K per build. For a no-code build, but it could be lower, could be more. So hopefully that covers a cross section there.
No, like I said, I knew it was a how long is a piece of string question, but for me, if I'm starting from scratch, have to learn no code, time's not necessarily an issue. So it's not, I don't have a deadline as such, but I want to build something. It's how much it's good. Like you said, if it's going to cost us, if I say the minimum's $3,000 to budget, but potentially might be 10 grand, against handing it across to somebody and say, build it, how much is going to cost it? So I know there's a time attached to it, but it's the physical cost of it as well. But then I suppose it's the updating afterwards as well, or the next iteration of whatever it's going to be.
I know if you want to put some figures on it, I know of one, and possibly it's an extreme, but I know of one system that I was hearing of the quotes were around 150K for the spec they were looking at, built from scratch, and then the no code option, which I believe has been gone for, which you can probably imagine after is being done on a fairly well known no code system for around 20 to 25 grand. So the difference can be significant. Again, it's all those questions that I think Ian and Max were saying about being built into that particular space. But it's actually a low code system that they use for this, but it's been around for I hadn't realized, but for years and years and years. So I think obviously you'll have different examples, but you can get a feel for the difference there. And that's two different agencies doing it. So a custom agency and a low code. I don't think you can really put a figure on it, and it's, you've got to look at what you're using it to do, because the longevity in no code and low code is going to be different to that in custom coding.
No, but I think it's, I suppose, naivety on my part and blind thinking, oh, I can just learn this and build something. But then the realization that there's a cost, and possibly the ongoing cost to it as well.
Yeah, I think all the apps are fairly transparent about the costs. I think, I say all, I think it's a bit different anyway. I'm guessing, Ian, from your side, from the more enterprise stuff, you can't just turn around and say, oh, it's going to cost, you can't have a pricing page and it just says this is how much it'll cost. But a lot of the sort of standard tools do have that done in Max, in terms of being able to just go and see per user or the baseline costs of that.
Yeah. I suppose a follow-on question, as well as and I know Sun and Software City and other people probably do it as well, is the specifying an app. So if you were like a noob like me, how would you have to specify basically what you think you're going to build, or is it just like build a wireframe? Or
someone that runs an agency would be better placed to me, because they'd know their onboarding process. But yeah, the more information you can give, the better. So I always start with asking people just a basic rundown of what spec, like features that they would want. So like almost a user journey, really basic user journey.
Yeah.
And then if they have wireframes, amazing. And go from there. But the more information, the better. But also, I know some agencies will pull that idea out of you and kind of break it down. So yeah.
No, right. Again, sorry for asking such random questions.
No, Paul, good, Mark. Thanks a lot. Justin, we've got Justin and David, and then we'll move on after that if it's all right. But Justin, go on.
Thanks. So Max, when I was looking at your Twitter feed, you there was like a no-code stack, or there was like a website which talked about a stack. Wondering if you could speak a little bit about whether there are stacks for no-code. I guess in the old days you'd have a LAMP stack or something like that. I can sort of bluff for England, however, can't really do the detail, so I just do the big picture. So could you speak to potential sort of no-code stack? So I think what I saw was what was there was Bubble, and then it seemed like Bubble has some kind of infrastructure, I'm guessing cloud infrastructure. So you actually you design the no code, or you assemble the solution in that application or sort of user interface, and then there's potential to host it on something else. I'm just wondering what the back end would be, just as like a really big picture, please.
Of course. Yeah, so I was grinning then because I was worried what tweets you'd discovered or you'd found. But yeah,
there's a bloke who runs a website, and he's got a list of, because it had ShareTribe, like ShareTribe Flex on it, which is like a marketplace platform that I've recommended to people, and someone has used it and got it to demo day and got live listings on that marketplace. So that was really interesting to see. I'm wondering whether that sort of, whether the space has got that sense of maturity where actually there's a stack where things connect together.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think there's stacks forming. I think there's you can look at it in a few ways. There's a learning stack. So just if you're going into no code, you want to get started, there's a stack that I would recommend you learn just to become more versatile and to be able to build most of your ideas in a quick, lean way. So that stack I can put in the chat, and that would cover Glide, Airtable, Zapier, Notion, and Airtable. And those five would give you a mobile app builder, a database, a automation tool, a mobile app, a soft sort of simple web app builder, and an organization tool. So those, I think there's a learning stack, but then I think if you actually got a specific idea, you probably have a couple of options, an all-in-one tool like Bubble, or you kind of hack together a few tools together. So I think there's an acronym called the WAM stack or something, which is Webflow, Airtable, Zapier, and something else. So yeah, really depends on what idea you have, but there's a few stacks emerging.
Super, thanks.
David, sorry for the wait.
It's all right. Yeah, just thinking about costs, I guess, and saying something about sometimes costs are kind of hidden. So having worked on the agency side for 20 odd years, what you're constantly trying to do is understand the need, what's needed from the client's point of view, and match that with what can be done with the tech. And in the traditional coding world, there's a big gap between those two things. You've got a lot of work to do to educate the client to understand the tech. You've got a lot of work to educate the developers to understand the client. And what no code does, it brings those things much closer together. You know, you can get a rapid prototype up there, you can quickly innovate and move things in it. And what it does is it takes the whole development process away from being all about tech-led and developer-led, and while we're waiting for, you know, developer resources to become available to do the next thing, so we can just get on with things. We can start to innovate and experiment and move so much faster. So from a client's point of view, you've got a lot less of your own time to spend on taking a project forward.
I couldn't agree with that. You put that fantastically. That
Thank
is
you
a
very much,
message
Ian.
that is a message we should all take away.
Thank you, Ian. We
Without a
should
doubt.
have a chat sometime, Ian.
Yeah.
So we're just launching No Code Labs. So, which has come from the fact there's an agency, we're doing more and more work with clients where actually the best solution for a client is not to go and build some custom software for them, but actually just to plug some things in.
And we do quite a lot of work with agencies on that basis, sort of thing.
Mm.
Out of interest, No Code Labs, and I was about to pass this comment just about this forum. About 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, I drove down to Leeds to go to an event which was branded No Code Lab. So just be a little bit aware. And I thought that would be really good because it would be effectively doing what we're doing tonight. And it was basically, in my opinion, marketing hype to bring people together to sell them something. And heavily social. So there should be a social aspect to these things, but it was broadly about having a few beers, having a laugh, and a marketing hype. I have to say, tonight has been excellent. I think all the subject matter that you're bringing up is right on point. And, you know, as far as promoting no code, I'd be right there because I've been doing that for years. So I must say I have a vested interest and I would declare that every single time. But that's only because I've been passionate about no code, probably as long as some people are. I'm looking at faces. No, there's not so many. Max is very young. Max is the youngest.
And yeah, educating us all, eh? Great. Max, thanks so much for that. It was really fantastic presentation, but the conversation afterwards has been really, really good. So thanks a lot, and we'll hopefully keep in touch. And everyone should go and check out. If you're thinking about no code, I think other people in here can also attribute to the fact that 100 Days No Code is a really excellent way to just give yourself a little bit of time each day to start building something. So it's really worth having a look. But thanks a lot. So what we wanted to do next is we're going to take a sort of 5-minute break, if that's all right, and then just spend half an hour at the end just going to some breakout rooms, just having a little chat about some questions that we've got around what you would want from the community. So if we can take 5 minutes and come back at well, 20, let's say 20 past 7, and we'll go into some breakout rooms, go through some questions, and then yeah, after about 20-30 minutes we'll come back together. So see you in 5 minutes, if that's all right. Lovely. Thanks, everyone.
I think I'm going to stay on the call for another sort of 10 minutes or so before I run out of steam. Shane, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Justin.
I'm wondering whether, were you ever in like the, was it the Double Duck Industrial Estate or something like that?
We were many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, near the. I'm trying to get it. So it's County Durham. I was trying to work out whether you were close to the Bignell Group or something like that. But
we were.
I might have got the.
Yeah. No.
Right, so where are you now? How are things going?
We're on Aycliffe Business Park.
Okay.
We're 25 people. We've now got clients all over the world, and we turn over now about 1.2 million. So
gosh, that's amazing.
We went from when you met with us, I think we were about 5 people. Something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Are you still anything to do with Dynamo?
No. So I work 4 days a week for the Northeast Local Enterprise Partnership. So I've posted my contact details in the chat. So I'm a Growth Hub connector. I started work at the LEP in August 2019, and that was a program called High Potential Startups. So I worked for the LEP it's 4 days a week. Wednesdays, I do stuff through my own business, which is co-delivering startup accelerator programs, coaching and mentoring startup founders. So the sort of no-code, low-code solution so I posted a chat at the top of the event, which was how can we get no-code and low-code for non-technical founders running alongside market validation, product development, and sort of company building. So do that on Wednesdays. So I'm justin.suter@anylab.co.uk, and what we do is signpost people to business support. We love case studies. I've had an email from my Helen Lee, who manages Us Connectors and Northeast Growth Hub. So there's I've just recommended someone this afternoon for like a blog post, which we call insights pieces. What can we do to support you, Ian?
Oh, probably all sorts. I mean, we are still trying to expand. We've grown, but we've got a 3-year fairly aggressive plan. I'd like to, if I was to say what would I like to achieve in the next 3 years, I'd like to effectively become a brand in the no-code marketplace that shines a light on the Northeast. Be the next Sage sort of thing of the Northeast.
Making a note here,
yeah. I mean, in 3 to 5 years, we're not going to become a Microsoft or a Google or an Apple, but we could be a very well-respected brand and technology that's born and bred here. So anything that attracts investment, because we're going to start and look at that route this year. We're going to look at international expansion, looking to open a subsidiary in Europe, and all of those sorts of things, we've never done before. So I'm sure there'd be a lot of things that you could help us with.
Sure. Okay. So absolutely assist with investment, both in terms of signposting you to where the money is and also best practice in terms of raising.
Yeah.
So in terms of international expansion, so we, myself and fellow connectors have like a Tuesday 9 o'clock call. So we're talking about DIT.
Yep.
So my suggestion would be to pile in to speak with the people from DIT ASAP.
We are engaged. We are engaged with DIT.
Yeah, and also I've worked recently with people who have or are setting up subsidiaries in Europe. So some people are setting up in the Netherlands, and I think that is good, and it's different and challenging. There are different expectations over there. Other people talk about there have been trade missions over to Ireland. I don't know whether it's actually taken place already, but so that's another option. I guess so I'm fond of the Irish and stuff like that. So I've got your email address, and what I plan to do is get in touch with you, give myself a reminder, and drop you a line. I'm back in lab work on Thursday.
Right. And because we've been doing it for such a long time, we've got loads of great stories to tell. Some of which we can only tell verbally. We can't publicize. So also
there are programs like Scale Up Northeast, Innovation Edge. So Scale Up Northeast does what it says on the tin. I guess Mark and colleagues at Sunderland Software City are big cheerleaders for the space. The other thing that has occurred to me, and because I'm just sort of probably going to step off the call, we've got an innovation team in the Northeast Lab. So I wanted to run this past maybe Mark whilst you're on the call, and I see Michael Dunn there. Hi, Michael. It'd be good. So we're doing my colleague Dinah and Alan Welby, who's our innovation director. We've got innovation development partnerships, etc. So we're developing or assisting with developing the space sector and like electric motors and stuff like that. It's almost as though how can we use no code and low code to support the innovation when you've got people coming up with ideas, and all right, if we could just hack something together with the no code, low code, and also wireframing, so we kind of unlock people and their assumptions about like the cadence of innovation.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of free association there. Adam, I'm running out of steam, as you can hear my voice. One thing, so thanks, Ian. I've got your contact details. What I'd like to, what I posted to the chat earlier, Adam, was to run the no code, low code alongside the kind of product development, product and service development, market validation, etc. So if you like, there's this kind of coming together of the technical side of things, the non-technical side of things, and people who are developing new engines of growth, new revenue streams, that sort of stuff, in terms of entrepreneurship, etc. So I'd love for. So it's me and my crazy ideas again. And Adam, you know me well enough to sort of, we've had crazy those chats. I remember having chats at probably sort of Campus North and stuff like that way back. And it's, what is it that we could achieve with this alongside, to nurture, respect, and grow the tech sector, and also kind of bring that together. So there's a kind of alloying process with the business side of things, so that there's that real sort of a sense of which people can crack on. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Great. And let's pick up a conversation soon about that stuff, because we're discussing it a lot at Software City as well. So fantastic.
Okay, so thanks so much. Yeah, thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Right, I've got looks like I've got 8 people for each room left. So if I'll do 2 rooms. If Nathan, are you okay to take room 1, and Ben to do room 2? Is that all right?
Of course.
Well, just have Nathan and Ben have got a few questions which I was going to put up on a slide beforehand. I should probably do that, so that you're not all just completely taken by surprise. But effectively, let me just share screen. 4 questions we've got are, what topics would you like to see at future events? One sec. You getting those questions now?
Nope.
Yeah.
Does that come up? Yeah?
Yeah, got them now.
Okay. So what topics would you most like to cover in the next meetups? So just thinking about some of those topics we had earlier on, obviously, if those are ones that resonate with you, then let us know, so we can, upvote them as it were, on paper, traditional style. But we want to know if you can contribute to the development of the community, and if so, how you could do so. What you feel Southern Software City could contribute to the community. So if there's anything that we can support, that we're positioned to do. And what you think of the future plans discussed earlier on, or any other ideas you may have for future plans that you'd like to discuss further. Go away for about probably about 20 minutes for that. Then we'll do a quick sort of feedback. Ben and Nathan will do a quick summary afterwards, and then we'll round up before finishing off. I am now going to do something I haven't done before, so hopefully this works. Sort out these breakout rooms, bear with me. Okay, have you got a notification there?
Yep.
Great. All right, see you all very soon.
No, just a few more minutes.
Clearly finishing wrapping things up in the other room. So
I'm gonna have to leave. It smells like my dinner's ready. So
Enjoy.
good to see you, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, take care.
William, and
All right.
I see everybody else as well. And look forward to future events.
Great.
Yeah.
Soon.
I've got a lot of reading to do. It's all very new to me, this one. So yeah.
Always new stuff. Take care, Jason.
Okay, look forward.
Bye-bye.
Catch up on the recording. Cheers.
Right, is that everyone back? I think it is. I don't know how this stuff works, but anyway, I think we're all back. So I thought what we'll just do is just spend, if Ben and Nathan could just literally for a minute or two, just rack off a few things that were discussed, and we'll see what whether there was I'm sure there'll be some similarities, but also probably some new ideas as well. Do you want to start with you, Ben?
Yeah, sure. So with regard to topics for the next meetups, we had identified perhaps a community forum, so where people can possibly identify threads of similar problems. So kind of like peer support. So we can maybe talk about things by, experimenting and playing in these tools and help each other. Perhaps maybe some kind of like shared communication thing. So that could be a Slack group or something along those lines. So we could keep in contact about what we're working on. Using something like that, we could maybe build in public with each other. See examples of what each other's working on, give each other encouragement, provide like ideas, things like that. And then perhaps look at like maybe do some brainstorms about ideas. So like the conception of an idea to then write user journeys and pain points ahead of building and choosing what tools, so we can better understand what tools might be applicable to the ideas that want to find a solution for. And then just exploring its place within the wider ecosystem as well, and sharing recommendations with one another, which I think a Slack group could be good, of particular tools and achievements which have accomplished. In terms of contributions, we had a couple of people suggest that they could bring speakers in, such as like innovation and design thinking, or for UI and UX, which might tie in well with some of that. Martin could share some of his experience of going from nothing to having a product within 6 weeks, or hearing some user store, like some use cases of it. And Deborah could bring in, could promote the community to the Northeast BIC to try and get us some more traction as well. Or with Sunderland Software City could contribute, beers and pizza if we meet up in person. So I think everyone would be happy with that. And then we'll just do our best to like promote it, to try and get more and more startups within the region, which I think this is a great way for people to get like MVPs and stuff, but not just MVPs, but actual solutions and stuff as well. And then just future plans, possibly considering the best use, the end use cases. So looking at like the streams for commercial use versus not for profit. So how these tools can be used. And then I think everyone was generally quite happy with regard to meeting in person. Not sure about the other breakout room, but hopefully that's the case. And we've identified a couple of places perhaps where we could meet, which we could move it around, but we've got a couple of locations to choose from, and obviously we do that based on how people could attend. But and as long as we're following the COVID precautions and stuff, people seem to be happy. So that was kind of what we covered in breakout room 2.
Here's Ben. Nathan, do you want to?
Yeah, well, definitely some overlap with our group, particularly facilitating the conversation, the role of Sunderland Software City. David wanted to emphasise us buying the beers, but that's just a representative of what it is that we can do for the community at large in terms of how it exists today, as well as bringing more people into the conversation. For topics for future meetings, we really liked the introduction that this meeting has had for the space on the macro level, but going into the micro level, we wanted to understand how no-code solutions were categorized in the larger framework of no-code as a whole, so that we can quickly identify what no code means to different types of people who are developing completely separate products from one another, and they're not, you know, confusing the whole market as one item. You know, we saw from Max, he had that that circle of what no code represents, and just to really dig down into that for the different industries. I suggested the idea of common pitfalls and what no code means for people who are coming from a tech background and a non-tech background, and what it means for them in terms of creating, what the end goal is, and the purpose behind no code altogether. That kind of led into thinking about what sort of person is needed to create a no code platform. Do you have to be like a certain personality type, or is this something for everyone? And then tying into topics as well as what we see as one of the big challenges for no code and low code is how do you communicate with the traditional industries and convince them that this is an emerging market, and will they invest in it? Will they collaborate in it? Will they share their own resources behind these projects? And what the difficulties currently are and how to best overcome them. We also really liked the idea of physical meetups. I particularly, and there was agreement across the group of the Build It Public idea. Really liked the idea of that, as to what the collaboration could bring about working between different teams, and the idea that we are kind of, you know, championing some of the principles of no code in the Northeast, being that we would like showcase each other's work, bring case studies to each other in person, and that we really visualize no code at a person-to-person level. And then to just touch on what we thought some of the challenges that exist for our specific no code Northeast community, but also no code in the region, was just the ideas that collaboration may not currently exist in the corporate sphere of no code, or well, traditional development, and how that interacts with no code, and basically the belief that no code can do what traditional development has been doing so far, and can do it well, if not better.
Super.
That's about everything.
That's brilliant. Right, we'll compile that all together and put it with what we've got, and start putting together a plan. I'm just going to share my screen because I want everyone to get away and get some dinner or sleep or whatever it is you do at this time of night. So just in terms of next steps, the next event's going to be on Tuesday, the 1st of March. That's right. Yeah. Can't believe we're talking about March already. So yeah, that's a month today, and we'll be looking at doing these on the first Tuesday of every month going forward. We'll start to get a sort of ahead of ourselves, let's say, on topics, and start to plan those out over the next few weeks leading up to that event. So hopefully we'll have a fair few updates ready for the 1st of March. Do please spread the word. Let people know. We're on Twitter at No Code Northeast, and we're on. We've got a mailing list on the website nocodenortheast.com. Details of the next event. Well, I say details. We'll be opening registration for the next event, hopefully in the next kind of 24 hours, so tomorrow or possibly the day after. And so yeah, as soon as you hear about that, sign up if you've enjoyed it. And you can also submit talk ideas. So if you've got a talk that you want to deliver, there's a form there with a bit.ly URL with just no-code-talks after it. But again, I'll circulate that with some of the other information from today over, again, probably the next 24 hours and give everyone the link for the next session as well. So hopefully by at least by end of Thursday, you'll all have details. The only one last thing I wanted to do is just quickly check in and find out how you found it tonight. There's not one of those. Don't feel like you have to answer, but if you could take 2 seconds just to fill that out, that would be really helpful for us.
Cheers, Adam. And did you say you were going to send the slides as well?
Yeah, I'll send links to the slides. Max is going to send his to me as well. So I'll send links to my slides, to Max's slides, and then details of the next events as well.
As well as the recording.
Yeah, I'll send a link to the recording as well. Good idea. Great. I'll probably do a little edit of the recording just because obviously there's breaks and things like that, so that might not be straight away. But yeah, we'll get that out as well. Lovely. Thank you all very much for coming, and hopefully see you at the next one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Alan.
Cheers.
Good to
Thank
meet you
you.
all.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks. Bye.